Okay, this is Nigel Farage, who started the UKIP party, or he was very much leading the UKIP party, and has really distanced himself from it now. But he really set that up to get Britain out of Europe. Okay, this is a brilliant speech, and here we go. This is Catania Alvin speaking from London, about 2.5 miles from the infamous city of London. And so just listen to Nigel Farage.
I've been jetting around this week back and forth between London and Strasbourg, as you may have heard. So I've spent a couple of days with Monsieur Barnier and Mr. Juncker, who could become your best customer, Tim, I've got to tell you. And of course I've crossed swords with Guy Verhofstadt and many others. But I got to thinking, I've left Strasbourg and I've come back to Westminster. But who really, in this Brexit process, are the enemies? Is it the unelected bureaucrats? Is it the MEPs in Brussels? Is it those that are trying to build a United States of Europe with their own army and an expansive foreign policy? No. Actually, folks, we tonight here in Westminster are in the heart of enemy territory.
Look at this. Boris Johnson exposes the deep state conspiracy against Brexit. Oops. And there is a photograph of him looking at May. According to my information from listening to Dr. John Coleman, so she has to take all her instructions from the Committee 300. Every Prime Minister has to belong to the Committee 300. And they are the, well, again, infamous. And I've done go on to my YouTube and have a look and see. I think it's the first one I re-put up after YouTube took everything down. I'd got quite a number about Committee 300. But do a search, Committee 300. Use Start Page or DuckDuckGo. So that's just to get on a bit more with Nigel Farage. Here we go. Who I think personally is an honest, very fine man and is principled. And he, like Donald Trump, is a businessman. Yeah.
You see, it couldn't really be clearer, could it? We were given a referendum on whether to remain or leave the European Union. We had the whole establishment. We had George Osborne as Chancellor telling us that 500,000 jobs would be lost. Everybody would, I'll use the word leave London if that's all right with you. And they told us it'd be so bad that when the President of America came, we were going to be at the back of the queue. They virtually told us that plagues of black locusts would descend upon our land, and 17.4 million brave souls stood up, defied them, and voted to take back control of our country. We then faced a general election in which both of the major parties, who took over 80% of the vote, promised us that referendum result would be implemented. We then moved on to Article 50 being put before the House of Commons, and 498 members of Parliament voting for it. And what it said couldn't be clearer. It said from the date we trigger Article 50, we have up to 2 years to negotiate a withdrawal agreement, or we leave 2 years after we triggered Article 50. It couldn't be clearer.
That is on the 29th of March 2019.
It is written into UK law, and that is exactly what should happen. But I'm afraid the truth of it is that our political class, much of our establishment, and many of the giant multinational businesses never respected that vote from day one. They have done all they can to frustrate it, all they can to delay it. And we get a never-ending series of negative messages. The whole thing is couched continually in economic terms, isn't it? We'll be worse off, we'll be poorer, it'll be a disaster. The very same people who told us we had to join the exchange rate mechanism. Remember that one? It led to, in 1992, a year of record business bankruptcies and house repossessions. But undeterred, the same people told us if we didn't join the euro, the City of London would close down, manufacturing would disappear, it would be a disaster. Thank God we didn't listen to them. Thank God we didn't listen to them.
Exactly.
And having been proved wrong again and again, now they tell us that leaving the European Union would be a disaster. Well, can we please go back to first principles? Can we please start to change the debate? The referendum wasn't about whether someone thinks we might be worse off or someone thinks we might be better off. Economic projections are difficult at the best of times. The referendum was about something else. The referendum was about a word that now seems to have evaporated in our whole debate on Brexit. This word that actually is the ultimate prize. This word that our forebears fought and gave so much more for in 2 world wars and more. This word that says we can be a free, independent, democratic, proud, self-governing state that makes its own laws, that controls its own borders, that chooses its friends around the world. And I want us to bring this word, this proud word, back into this whole debate. The word is, and what we voted for was, the independence of this country.
Exactly. It's the independence that we've lost.
That is what
the
we voted
sovereignty.
for. Independence. And yet, despite the fact we have this piece of law that says we will leave on WTO terms, and sure, no deal, no problem, the difficulty is our political class do not believe in Britain.
Exactly.
I want to ask you, do you believe in Britain?
The political class are the globalists.
Well, I'm pleased to hear it because we have finished up, I'm afraid, with a failed negotiation.
Not all of them, but a lot.
With a withdrawal agreement that in the end looked more like a surrender document of a country that had been beaten at war and quite rightly was voted down by the House of Commons the other evening. But now, in a desperate attempt, the Prime Minister wants to try and get her Brexit in name only through, and she's now engaged on a cross-party debate, attempting to achieve consensus with a group of parties who are all Remainers. The only person that didn't turn up, of course, was Jeremy Corbyn, which is odd. Well, he's perfectly happy to meet Hamas, isn't he? Perfectly happy to meet Hezbollah, happy to take tea with the IRA, but he wouldn't go and meet Mrs. May, which I find a little bit strange.
Okay, this is Catania Alvin. I must do a part 2 of this. I think he's a brilliant speaker. God bless and love and light to all who watch.